The next entry mode we're going to look at here is through wholly owned subsidiaries. Now this is where a firm owns 100% of this newly established foreign operation. So it's not like a joint venture where you go 50-50 or some percentage that is shared with a foreign partner. It's not like licensing or franchising where you contract out somebody in that foreign market to effectively run the business for you. It is when you expand on your own and control and own 100% of that foreign operations. Now we can break it down into two more specific forms. You can have either a greenfield investment where the firm sets up a new operation in the foreign country effectively from scratch, so it establishes all of the key factories, all of the facilities, as well as the brand recognition. Or it can be through an acquisition where the firm acquires an existing established brand in the host nation and uses that to promote its products. So there are some differences here that we'll talk about between the two, but certainly the first one, you go it on your own completely, build up that the operation from scratch, and the second one is where you buy out and own an existing business who are already set up, Kevin Spacey style. Now there are some advantages here for wholly owned subsidiaries as a broader entry mode. Certainly there's no risk compared to the others of losing technical competencies, key advantages, resources, and secrets to success to your competitors. You're not having to give a potential partner some of these resources or secrets. You're not having to give a franchisee access to technologies, for example. This therefore facilitates by far the tightest and highest level of control over those foreign operations. Everything is kept in-house, and because of that, it also best facilitates firms being able to realize things like learning curves and location economies, because you yourself as a firm are expanding overseas without having some foreign partner to help you. You are going to have the highs and lows and the new realizations of learning how to do business in that foreign country rather than having somebody else do it for you. So you will learn new processes and potentially better ways of doing things, and also get direct access to advantages specific to that location. It's not going to be you're not going to have a situation where somebody else is being able to gain that advantage. You will have direct access through your own wholly owned operation to those location economies. On the negative side, you do have to bear the full cost, both from a time and financial perspective here. So especially if we're looking at greenfield investments, it takes a long time and a whole lot of money, not just to establish things like the plants and the factories and your facilities, but to build things like brand awareness. You're going to have to invest a lot of money to actually establish that in a foreign market, certainly more so than if you're going in there with a partner or even an acquisition where you're buying out an already existing firm. It's also the riskiest entry mode, given that you're going in entirely on your own. You're not spreading that risk with a partner or a franchisee who knows the market better than you do. You're inheriting the full liability of foreignness that we spoke about previously, which means it is certainly the riskiest form here too. If we differentiate now more closely between acquisitions and greenfield investments, there are some advantages and disadvantages of each. Let's focus first on acquisitions. In terms of its advantages, obviously the firm already exists. You're not having to build factories, you're not having to establish brand awareness, because somebody else has already done that for you. They already exist, this firm that you are acquiring, in the local market. So for that reason, it's great if you're trying to gain quick access into that particular part of the world. And certainly from an execution perspective, and we're not talking about this type, we're talking about actually establishing your foreign operations, it's a great way to do it. Because of that speed of being able to set up quickly, you are able to an extent, preempt your competitors, especially because there is an already existing presence in the market that you're just buying out. And for that reason, it can be viewed as a less risky proposition than a greenfield investment. On the negative side, they do often lead to disappointing results. What we tend to find quite commonly is that firms, when they do acquire an existing firm, will seek out ones which are currently underperforming. The reason they do that is so that they can buy them relatively cheaply, and then they believe they can improve their performance, make them much more profitable, and potentially even sell them on for a profit down the line. But of course, if you're buying an underperforming firm, there's usually a reason why it's underperforming. So it doesn't always guarantee that automatic improvement that a lot of firms are looking for. You can also overpay for a firm. Usually, as with when people look to sell anything, they will make it seem shiny, new, squeaky clean, and running really well. And of course, that is often not the case. You think of when you buy a car, the salesman, whether it's a private seller or a dealership, will always try and make it look as nice as possible. And the same thing happens with acquisitions, where if a firm is trying to be sold by one party to another, it of course makes sense for the seller to make it look as attractive an option as possible. So a lot of the time firms actually end up overpaying for what they're really getting. This is often due to inadequate pre-acquisition screening. They're not thorough enough, firms, when they are looking for potential acquisitions. They don't have strict enough screening procedures to actually look into and investigate these issues so that they don't end up overpaying. There are often issues in terms of culture clashes, especially if you're getting, for example, a Western firm buying out an Asian firm. There are clearly many different ways that those businesses are likely to be run. Looking back to our week on culture, there will be different things and expectations in relation to aspects like management style as much as anything else, and organisational structure, strategy, and so on. So the cultural clash from buying out an existing firm who are usually inheriting a certain culture can be an issue, and that in turn often leads to problems with synergies. We're trying to create something that is greater than the sum of its parts is often quite difficult because you're trying to integrate things which don't necessarily mesh together so well. On the other hand, greenfield investments do have a number of advantages themselves. Sometimes they are the only option. For example, there might not actually be any existing firms in that particular industry that you're looking to expand into that you can just go out and buy. So it might actually be the default choice. You do have the luxury of being able to establish your foreign subsidiary exactly how you want it. It's like if you're buying a house, you don't have to buy. If you're building one from scratch, you can make it exactly how you want it to be. You don't have to buy somebody else's dream home. And it's the same here with greenfield investments. It's also great if you're seeking to exploit ownership advantages. That is, as we talked about in previous weeks, being able to control a process or a technology, something that your firm only possess, because you do get that full level of control. So you can exploit that more easily. And it's also easy to establish operating routines, certainly more so than an acquisition, where they're likely to already have pre-existing routines that they're quite used to, and if you come in and try and change that, that can often cause clashes. So you can avoid that through having a greenfield investment. On the downside, they are super slow to establish, certainly much more so than an acquisition, and almost certainly more so than all the other modes here. And I think we have a demonstration of about how quickly it is to establish a greenfield investment. Yep, speeding along here. Killed it. That's right. That's about as quick as a greenfield investment actually happens. And as I said, that's largely just for logistical reasons. You have to build the factories. You have to establish your dealerships, your networks with all your suppliers and distributors. You have to actually build brand awareness, and that takes a long time. It carries the greatest level of risk because it's usually the most expensive, but also because you don't have a partner. You're not buying out another company who know how to do business in that particular market. You're doing it all yourself. You're learning as you go, which of course means that it carries a greater degree of risk. And finally, there is also the risk in terms of the preemption by aggressive competitors. What we tend to find is that a lot of the time when a firm comes in and says, right, we're going to come in here and do everything ourselves and become the dominant player in this industry, that is the entry mode that tends to stimulate the greatest and most aggressive response from the local competitors. That really gets their backs up and they say, right, well, we've got to fight back against this new foreign company who's coming in and trying to dominate our market. So it carries a degree of risk there as well. Our final entry mode we're going to look at today are strategic alliances. And when we talk about strategic alliances, unfortunately, we're not talking about this type of strategic alliance or this type of strategic alliance for our WWE fans. And if I'm being cynical, we're not even talking about Kim and Kanye. Oh, come on, guys, cheer up. I'm only joking. There we go. No, within international business, we're talking about the cooperative agreements between potential actual competitors. That sounds a bit weird, but that's actually how it actually goes down. So it may range from a formal joint venture, which is obviously we've spoken about previously, to a short-term contractual agreement. So it's a broad-term strategic alliance, but refers to any coming together of previously competing firms to engage in some form of international expansion within the context of IB at least. And what we've tended to find is that the number of strategic alliances has absolutely exploded in recent decades. And there are a number of reasons why that's the case, and we're going to have a look at some of them today. One of the most important reasons for that explosion that we've seen is that it's a great way of facilitating entry into a foreign market. Nothing will make a government lay down the welcome mat more than having an understanding that this foreign firm that's coming in isn't just going to look to take over itself, it's going to work together with a local partner. So it's usually an easier way than something like a greenfield investment to enter a foreign market. It also allows firms to share the fixed costs and risks of developing new products or processes, as we've spoken about previously. You know, it's always a good thing to share what you have, like our feline friends here. Aren't they adorable? It also means that you can bring together complementary skills and assets that neither partner could easily develop on its own. And this might be from a financial perspective. You might not have the funds to develop something on your own, but bringing together the combined financial resources of your partner firm means you can do so. Or it might just be that you don't have a particular capability that your partner does have. So hopefully this creates something which is greater than the sum of its parts, but through these complementary skills and resources. And it also, strategic alliances, helps a firm establish technological standards for the industry that will benefit the firm as well as the industry at large. So there are a number of advantages here. It is also important, though, to be conscious of some of the drawbacks, and by far the most common is that you can create a situation where your competitors, who you are going into a strategic alliance with, actually get low-cost access to technology and markets from you. So it's really important that you need to be careful to not give away more than you're receiving. It's all well and good to share like our feline friends, but you don't want to create a situation where you're trying to be nice and next minute they're running away with your biscuit. So you want to make sure that it is a mutually beneficial relationship, that you're not giving a potential competitor, or not a potential competitor, an existing competitor, cheap access through this partnership to all your secrets and your sources of competitive advantage. Alright, our final point here looks at what it is then that actually makes a successful strategic alliance. And the first point we're going to look at here is all about partner selection, that is choosing a good partner. And we're not talking about jumping on Tinder. No, we're talking about you as a firm trying to find that other firm that you can go on romantic walks on the beach with, or something around like that. You get what I'm saying. So you're going to you need a very intensive, thorough screening process that we spoke about previously to help identify a firm that can help you achieve your strategic goals and also has the capabilities that you lack, something that can complement and add to what you have. The firm should share your vision for the purpose of the alliance, why you're actually seeking to develop and engage in this alliance, and shouldn't exploit you for its own end, which is pretty self-explanatory. In terms of this structure, the alliance should firstly make it difficult to transfer technology that shouldn't be transferred. You want to protect yourself against that key technology and processes and knowledge being stolen. You need contractual safeguards to guard against the risk of opportunism by that partner. You need to allow for skills and technology swaps with equitable gain. So creating a situation where you can share what you want to share, but also protect what needs to be protected. And finally, you need to examine the manner in which the alliance is managed, which will usually require strong interpersonal relationships, which take a bit of time and effort, And you need to be able to learn and be open to learning from that alliance partner. It's only when firms open themselves up to these types of learnings and relationships that they can truly benefit from a strategic alliance.